All right. I understand a lawyer's speaking after me, and I got to go on record. I like lawyers. No, I really do. They taste like chicken. And yeah, be careful. I often use humor when I talk to people, and I have found out that a lot of people are hurting. 24-year-old girl sat in a wheelchair in my office. She had been in a car wreck. She had 4 major spine fractures, and she looked at me and she said, "I'm hurting so bad that if you don't operate on me, when I leave your office, I'm going to the bridge over the Ohio River and jump off." I said, "Please don't do that." She goes, "You give me one good reason." I said, "That's the way I go home. You'll back up traffic for hours." And she looked at me and she goes, "You're crazy." Young lady hadn't laughed in a while. You see, humor is a very powerful medium, but I don't plan on using humor this evening. I want to talk to you this evening on why I'm a Christian. I was having dinner in a restaurant in a distant city. There was a businessman, and I looked at him and I said, "Do you mind if I say grace for the meal?" And from there, our conversation centered around religious things. So I finally looked at him and I said, "Do you believe God exists?" And he said, "Sure." I said, "Great, prove it." And there was silence. I said, "Do you believe Julius Caesar existed?" He said, "Sure." I said, "Fantastic, prove it." Silence. The scientific method is the preferred method for investigating ideas. You can take a hypothesis, you can study a problem, record data. But the scientific method, you cannot study moral, historical, philosophical issues. You cannot take Julius Caesar or God into the lab, prove or disprove them. So how do we know these things? Well, nature can guide you in some things. In Darwin's time, the human cell was nothing more than a blob of jello. But over the past 50 years, we have had an explosion in knowledge of just how intricate and complex the human cell is. The DNA molecule, the molecule that carries your genetic information. There is enough information in one cell to hold all 30 volumes of the Britannica Encyclopedia 4 times over. In fact, if you took the DNA and had the volume of it that would fit on a pinhead, you could fill paperback books from here to the moon 500 times. You cannot look at the human cell with the knowledge inside of it and not see the hand of God or complexity. Anthony Flew was a British philosopher, a brilliant man, and for over 50 years, he was the champion for the English-speaking world for atheism. He debated C.S. Lewis in the 50s at Oxford University, but at 81 years of age, he changed his mind after studying DNA. Something made an atheist switch his worldview. DNA is the antithesis of chance. And when you look at it, and if you were walking along a beach and you saw your name written in the sand, you would say, "Who wrote this?" When you look inside the cell and you see a 1,000,000-paged encyclopedia, do you not want to say, "Who wrote this?" You see, it's one of the reasons I'm a Christian. We live in a finely tuned universe. Our atmosphere is 21% oxygen. If it was 25%, spontaneous fires would develop. If it was 15%, we could not live. You look at the distance from the earth to the sun, 5% closer, we burn up, our oceans boil over. 5% further away, we freeze to death. You look at the moon. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but it's 400 times closer to the earth and the sun. That's why they have the same appearance in the sky. This perfect match of the earth to the moon is found, that relationship, one time in the whole solar system, and you live there. An odd coincidence? or just right to stabilize our rotating axis and contribute to the ocean tides. See, a lot has to go right to live on this planet. Are we the recipients of some random cosmic lottery or the hand of a living God? The late Carl Sagan, an astronomer from Cornell University, said, "Nothing unusual about Earth. It's an average, unassuming rock spinning around an unremarkable star in a run-of-the-mill galaxy." Dr. Sagan, in all due respect, you're wrong. This is a remarkable planet with a constant magnetic field, an ideal gravity, an abundance of water, an atmosphere just right, and located in the Goldilocks center of the galaxy. No, this is a privileged place to live. In my study, there's a mousetrap, an actual mousetrap. And it reminds me of a concept developed by a biochemist named Michael Behe. The concept's irreducible complexity. How many of the 5 parts of a mousetrap do you need for it to function? You need all of them. You take away the wood or the spring or the bait trap, it doesn't catch more mice. It doesn't catch mice at all. Lose one part, lose all function. Now, if something as simple as a mousetrap cannot be built in a stepwise fashion, can you explain the human eye to me? With a cornea and a lens and an optic nerve and a retina, and the list goes on. There are over 2 million functioning parts in the eye. Let me give you a quote. If it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed that could not have possibly been formed by successive slight modifications, then my theory will absolutely break down. Charles Darwin, Origin of Species, page 87, top right corner. 5 parts in a mousetrap. Do the math. You see, it's one of the reasons I'm a Christian. When I look at the universe and how it began, I really have 3 options. It created itself, somebody created it, or it's always been, and that it's eternal. Now, the universe creating itself is craziness. How can something create itself before it existed? So that comes off the list. The universe being eternal is utterly rejected by science. The background radiation, the motion of the galaxies, things moving away from planet Earth show that we have a finite past. We are not eternal. Now, most scientists believe that this Earth came about, or the universe came about, by the Big Bang, which is nothing more than a theory that instability developed in a kernel of massive energy, and there was an explosion, and that's how we got here. Let me ask you a question. If you heard a loud bang behind me, and I said, "What made that bang?" And you said, "Nothing. It just happened." Yeah. You wouldn't believe that. No. But what is true for a small bang must be true for a big bang. And that leaves me with something created this universe. You see, it's one of the reasons I'm a Christian. Moral values guide me to a living God. There are some things in this world that are right or wrong. It's found in every culture. Love is always superior to hate. Can you identify a nation where murder is a virtue, or helping children is a vice, or fleeing in battle is held in high esteem? Why are these things right and why are they wrong? Is there a moral order in this world, and where did it come from? Is there evil in the world? Of course there's evil in the world. Flying planes into buildings is evil. Murder is evil. Abusing children is evil. But if you have evil, you must have good. And if you have evil and good, something must define evil and good. And you have something that defines evil and good, you have a moral order. And if you have a moral order, you have a moral order giver that returns me to a living God. And it's one of the reasons I'm a Christian. I was talking to a surgeon from India who happens to be a Hindu. And I asked him, I said, "Who do you think Jesus Christ is?" And he said, "He's a God." I said, "A God or the God?" And he said, "He's a God." Another question. In the Gospel of John, the Bible says, and Jesus is speaking, I am the way, I am the truth, and the life, and no man cometh unto the Father but by me. Sound like a statement made by a God or the God? If you really want to be politically incorrect, because we live in a very pluralistic society, meaning all religions are valid, but if you want to be politically incorrect and marginalized for what you believe, you say Christ is the only way. Let me tell you what I told the Hindu doctor. I said, Senthil, if one of your family members had lung cancer, and I knew the chemotherapy protocol that was the treatment, would you label me as a bigoted, narrow-minded oncologist to the other doctors? Would you tell me that I'm just right-wing crazy?